Try again.
I'll try again. That's better, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was profound and sort of boundless. So I kind of went away from thinking about Feldenkrais, really. I was just fascinated in the experience. And I don't know if there are boundaries or should be. So what was in my experience of touching was a lot of direction from the experience of touch about what my brain would do, and it was something about empathy, and the same in reverse with being touched. I was experiencing a kind of awakening. I could describe it as an awakening of my nervous system, or I could talk about chi. You know, you say we make associations with things we already know. That's something I know about. So this, there's in this experience of what we did then, or what I did and what I felt, a connection between perhaps two nervous systems, which causes one to become completely able to learn because it feels safe and nurtured, and there's a tenderness, and you know, all of that is not what I intended to do when I sat down here. I thought I was going to feel for some muscles, you know. So it was profound, yeah.
Great. So they're all the hallmarks of a good conversation, aren't they? You know, the sort of that relationship building. And I'd ask you to reflect on how that differs from someone giving you a massage, where they're still touching the same muscles. I mean, those muscles are ones that people massage a lot, right? But this is a different relationship where we are not doing to a muscle, and there's nothing wrong with massage. You can get prickly if you want to, but that's fine. It's a quest, and it's about that. And so the person on the table experiences it differently. So if I'm having a massage, I'm paying to be moved, and I might feel things or not, or whatever I'm paying for. But this is something different. Again, I'm losing my words. Martina, you wanted to say something?
That's exactly what we have actually been discussing, you know, also the difference between massage and the touch, because I'm a massage therapist too. And I was wondering why Shauna was touching me, you know. I could perceive so much more about myself than with being massaged. And yeah, it was just while I was being touched, I was wondering if it wouldn't be actually more benefit doing what we are doing.
Would it be of more benefit to do what we do?
Yeah.
It's different.
I was discussing the validity in my head.
Yeah.
Because, I was just so much more aware than when I'm pummeled, which I usually like.
Yeah, I think, you know, it's good to know the difference and the different intention of the two approaches, because sometimes, obviously, people like being pummeled. I don't, because I'm so low-toned that me being more relaxed is, well, I'll just be a puddle on the floor. So, you know, it doesn't speak to me, but other people really like it because it speaks to them. But it's for a different purpose.
I was also comparing it a bit to shiatsu, you know, because which is more pressure. Yeah, just a few thoughts going around.
Yeah.
Quick
Any
thought.
Comments? Carol?
The softer the touch, I found the more I could work out the tonus. And
as the person lying?
As the person doing.
Oh, doing. So you were the toucher.
I was the toucher.
Yep.
And Anastasia, when she touched me.
The touchy? When she was the toucher.
When she was the toucher.
Yep.
When she touched me lightly, I got just really relaxed.
Okay.
So I found when I was touching, I could understand the tonus more by the lightest touch.
Yep.
Tiniest touch. Was able to tell differences in that length.
Yep.
On the spine. And when she did the same, I was able to just really relax, be pain-free, everything. So beautiful. Anyway.
Yep, yes. So this is really important things, and what I'm encouraging everybody to do is expand your repertoire of touch as well, so that you can touch really lightly. And if you've got somebody who's really ticklish, the last thing you want to do is touch them lightly, because they'll freak out and their tone will go up and then they'll get even more ticklish, because ticklish is related to your muscle tone, right? So have a good repertoire. And, you know, Martina and I were talking, Martina's working on a repertoire of speed, you know, going fast, going slow. In this room is your opportunity to broaden your repertoire, because all of you will do something really well. You'll do this in a one way really well. And the point of it in here is to develop your repertoire using the person that you're working with, so that you can cater for everybody. You know, you're going to be the universal chef that can cook any dish. Up to a point. Yes? So that you're not going to walk away and thinking light touch is always the best thing. Mostly it is, and that's in Carol's context, and working with Anastasia, that's you checked out your repertoire, and that was, you made a decision about why you're not going to spit based on that relative set of conditions. I know, I bring in the metaphors like it does your head in, but somebody else, you'll try that and they'll be unmoved, or they'll be ticklish or something, and then you know you've got this really broad repertoire where you can go firmer or not, faster or slower, whatever. Yeah.
Anastasia didn't like me doing it fast. Like initially I was doing like a quick soft scan, I thought, but she said it was really cup. I said, what would that touch mean? She said, well, that's almost cup. But I thought I was doing a quick soft touch, just sort of feeling. She didn't like that. But normally I wouldn't ask, do you like this?
Yeah. Well, I don't ask my clients if they like it, because I'm not interested if they like it or not. I couldn't give a shit if they like it or not. It's whether it's interesting, whether they're learning something. Because liking it is about massage in a way. Yes. Yeah. And you don't want them to hate it. But if you're showing, you know, so
she disliked it, and I wasn't realising that. How would I know?
Okay, so tell me, how would you manifest it non-verbally, somebody who was not comfortable with a touch or a speed? What might you see? Breathing changes, yeah? They might be jumpy, they might be twitchy. Eyes might be going all over the place. Frowning, tensing up, so the tone goes up rather than down. And if you're really unsure, you can say, is this okay for you? But I would really encourage you not to say, do you like it?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not really got the words.
Yeah, no, I'm a bit out of language today as well, so
I'd rather not speak to them.
Yeah, look, I'd rather we just worked with hands as well. Hands are much clearer. Aren't hands so much clearer than language? It's just driving me crazy today, but anyway. Yeah, I'm sorry I'm picking it up. I'm not picking you up, I'm just using that. Yeah. Because I know you can cop up, we know each other. Yes, Madhavi. Madhavi.
Yes.
I said it right, yeah.
Yeah. I like the idea of spending time. Like just being there with that person at that moment. Building that relationship.
Yep.
I felt really that our soul like really connected, and we were ready to dance, like really felt connected.
Yes.
So time, really spend time. I think that's what is happening in our society. We don't want to spend time.
Yeah.
We're just running, rushing.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because Shauna and myself, we are both fast people. But we both liked it better when the other person slowed down.
Yeah. Okay, so you're two peas in a pod. That's interesting. Yes.
I thought it was weird.
Good. Excellent.
Because we don't ever relate to people like that, particularly people we don't know.
Yes.
So we'll say, I'm not going anywhere with this. I just have to be here. You know, it was really strange.
Yeah.
Did anyone else relate to that? No. Okay.
Yeah. No. Look, and this is great. Like, we cannot assume that everyone's going to have a lovey-dovey thing to it. I remember a massage when I was first started in my practice. This massage therapist came in for a lesson, and I did this super lesson. It was informative, and I was just on fire. It was a great lesson. In my humble opinion, ha ha. And he got up and went, "Oh yeah, I thought it would be like having a good massage." And he got up and walked away and never came back. That's because that's what he wanted. He didn't want anything to be different to a massage. He just wanted that. So you can't predict anything. And weird in terms of, was it weird like I don't want that anymore, or weird it doesn't make sense but I'm okay with that?
Not I don't want it. Yeah, weird that there's this big space here and I don't know what to do with it.
Big space of time or big space of back?
No, time.
Time.
Yeah, but it was cool, but it was very unusual, I suppose.
Yeah, and unusual when you were toucher or touchy?
Toucher.
Toucher. When you were touchy, was it weird?
No.
Which did you do first?
Toucher. I liked it. It's definitely a curious thing.
Yeah, yeah. Be prepared for every response under the sun. Yeah. Any other queries? Yes, Fiona. Can I ask you, Fiona, did we answer the so what factor or not?
Well, I wonder if this question's maybe part of it.
Yeah.
It did. What you said to me made a lot of sense about feeling where the nervous system's at. That made a lot of sense to me.
Okay.
But I just wonder in terms of the general population. So we might understand some of this conversation about it. It's quite in depth, I would say.
Yes.
Kind of. But out there, people that maybe kind of come into a Feldenkrais lesson, I kind of feel if we don't explain it in some terms, something that makes sense or that's a bit more, I don't know, practical or something, that they're just going to think, well, what was that all about? Was it a massage? Was it a what?
Yes.
And do you ever have conversations with people to say, this is just a scan for me to get some information from your body, or do you?
Yes, I do. Yes. And we were talking a little bit about this stuff about how if somebody is really, we're seeing that this is, the weird is tipping into that this is not good weird. This is like, I'm uncomfortably in weirdness here. You can infer the purpose of it by saying, okay, now what I'm feeling here is that this side seems to be working more than this side. And then you touch it, you feel it, and then you touch the other side, and then they go, oh, okay. So already in that questioning, you're not leading them into, I'm doing this because, but you're starting to engage them in what your explorations are revealing. This is what but you're not negating their feelings, so they can contradict you or not. But can you see that in that question, they're starting to get a sense that this is not a random thing that I'm doing. I'm not massaging them. I'm gathering information, because then I'm asking them to join in the quest. So questions are a really good way to do that. Or you might just say, especially if someone first comes in and we're running our hands down their back, they're going, what the hell? I'm not a cat. You're stroking me. And we can say, I'm just catching a little bit of, where you're at in terms of which muscles are working, which muscles are not working as much, which muscles might be working a lot, which muscles aren't working a lot, or, what any differences one side to the other, or yes. So you would just give them a little comment about that. Some people don't like any dialogue really, but I have learned over the years to have the courage to say what I'm feeling more, and it takes a bit of courage. But you're not saying it like it's that reality. It's just your reality, and it's all a bloody illusion anyway. So you put it in that context and say, this is what I'm feeling. How does that match with your experience? And then I start to explain why I did something, what the question was. And invariably people say, thank you for including me. And that's been a real revelation for me probably in the last sort of 10 years, to have the courage to do that. And then people often thank me because I'm saying it in a way where the conversation is in a way that is very respectful. And it's not, I can be very flip. It's not flip. About that this is their body, and I'm kind of catching up with what they already know about their body. you know what I mean? So it's that kind of conversation. Anchor, you haven't introduced, you haven't met the box yet. Sorry?
How did you see me behind your back?
I have a mirror. Lisa is my mirror. She's my rear view mirror.
Amazing.
So I look into that rear view mirror and she reflects back to me. Yeah. No, it's actually something that you develop. As an advanced practitioner, I have learned to see out of my ear. Go.
All right. I really like the spine at the moment, and I have done like some massage therapy the last month.
Yeah.
And I've always been really curious to work along those muscles,
yep.
just particularly for that reason, because it seems to reflect so much about the state of the person.
Yeah.
What happened for me in the working with Simon is I have been in this really mental focused space and I haven't had time to check in with myself.
Yes.
And this is just really amazing feedback to
yeah.
receive. And it, yeah, like for me, that link with where my focus is, where how much I'm focusing, how much time I've had to process information seems to like really be about how active those muscles are for action or not for action and how adaptable they are. And yeah, what I've wondered with massage in the past, what happened for me sometimes was if I start to manipulate along those muscles, then it's changing something. It seemed to change something so fundamental for that person that it was nearly sometimes I wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah.
Because it seems like all the rest has to be ready to be involved in that change.
It can be out of context.
Yeah,
yep.
And it seems like I think it happened for me once or twice where I felt that person afterwards actually got pain because something relaxed that wasn't ready, like the rest of them wasn't ready to incorporate it. So relaxing one group of muscle in there seemed
not necessarily
not necessarily beneficial, and it because it involves so much of the person, so much of the nervous system, it has to like go slowly, like
and in a pattern of activity, but not out of context. It's not that just group. Now, what Anka's brought up is quite an important point. Is that if somebody's muscles do relax as a result of us touching them, our sort of explanatory mechanism of that is not that we have relaxed them. We have pointed out a zone, if you like, of muscle tension, which, according to me, is a reflection of the state of their nervous system. Their nervous system has registered that tension and then made a decision to reduce it. Now, this is a critical thing because that's a learning thing, right? You've given them feedback, their brain's noticed the feedback, it's made a different decision to reduce the activity to that muscle. So that's it's a change in tonus, but the system did it. Now, again, I'm not being disrespectful for massage because it can be revolutionary for people, right? With massage, it's the skill of the massage therapists. And you could say, the brain is relaxing the muscle too, but often it's not it's to my mind, from my experiences having been massaged, it happens and I don't know how it happened because my nervous system kind of wasn't in the picture. So I don't know how to get back to that stage. And I'm not talking consciously, I'm talking at that nervous system level because it's not in a context where there was a sort of a decision. Does that make sense in any way? So that's the difference, is a good massage will relax the muscle. We show the person that the muscle has some tension in it. The brain clocks that and makes a decision about whether to relax the muscle or not. Right? And that's the learning. That's a learning thing, not a manipulation thing. Marissa?
I just wanted to point out that this is kind of a number of examples of what happens when we put our hands on people. Things happen, stuff changes. And so we can't do an assessment because by the time you've gone from one end to the other, it's already different. So Bruce was...
Oh, okay, sorry. It's the pillars in here. People hide behind pillars. I can't see you.
Yeah, just when you meet... There was one point that she was working...
I'm going to stop you, Bruce. How, everybody else, what's a different way of saying Nicole was working on me? I'm being mean here, right? But this is important. Nicole was exploring my muscle tonus. Yep.
I was exploring my muscle tone.
Good boy. I'm such a mother, aren't I, honestly?
Yeah, there was a spot that she was touching on. I felt this like a dull ache, and I thought that's a bit odd. And then she moved up a little further, and then all of a sudden, all my shoulders, both sides, just collapsed.
Wow. Yeah.
It was just like you'd taken a peg out that was holding it, just went boom, straight down. I thought, oh, that was, didn't it? It just dropped down, and then after that, I didn't really feel that ache anymore either. It just sort of released everything.
Yeah.
It was funny because Bruce said, look, you did that. And I was kind of like,
well, no, I didn't.
Didn't do anything.
No, Nicole didn't do it. You did it.
That's just that pointing out. And like you said, the brain picks that up and thinks, oh, I'll never let that go.
Yep, your system did it. And that's Jenny's point is Nicole was asking questions. Her intention was not to change you at all. Her intention was simply asking a question. Your system, in answering the question, made a different decision, which is a perfect illustration of what Jenny said. So that's great. Yeah, that's really good. Deb, up the back behind you, Bruce.
What happens if the person falls asleep?
Sleep. Perchance to dream. Now, there's a bit of controversy around this, isn't there, about sleep? So Feldenkrais famously said, I don't know, it was Amherst or San Francisco, I don't know, because I was asleep when he said it. Not that I was there when we used to listen to these things. But it doesn't matter if you're asleep in an ATM, you'll hear it anyway. Well, I'm sorry, I think that's bollocks, right? I don't think we do really hear a lot when we're asleep. If the person goes to sleep, if they need to sleep, that's kind of their decision. And I usually go along with it. This is mine, I'll be interested to hear what Fran and Jenny and everyone else has to say. But I usually let them sleep. And then when I move them, they'll wake up and they'll apologise. I say, it's fine. I'm still getting information. Their consciousness obviously isn't engaged. That's kind of, I see going to sleep in the sort of the same light. That's their response to the information. That's a decision their nervous system's making at the time. And we let it kind of ride. So before we go to Martina, I'd like to is any other comments from the practitioners about how you cope with people sleeping?
Get out my big stick.
Oh, yeah. Well, whack them. Yeah. Fran said she gets out a big stick.
Certainly early in my practice, I was delighted when people fell asleep.
Because she didn't have to talk to them.
Well, that's right. But
she could pick their pocket.
They didn't have to kind of do or be anything with me either. And so it gave me a little window into being able to explore more freely in a way of what was their system able to do when the brain wasn't engaged, so that I had a bit of reference when they kind of came back to play, that I knew where things could freely move and where they had physical constraints that things wouldn't go so easily. So, yeah, sometimes people need a little rest and they come back refreshed and participate again afterwards.
My feeling would be if it's a habit, they do it all the time, it's something that you should discuss. Maybe, Fran, you want to talk about that?
Yes, I have had clients who habitually fall asleep the minute they lie on the table. It's as though that was the trigger for them. I'm going to be touched in a very special way. And then and then the snoring begins, or whatever. Like you, Jenny, I I feel if they've fallen asleep, that's what they need to do. But if they've fallen asleep because it's become like a dependence on me calming them enough to go to sleep, then you can tell the difference, can't you?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
But I do think that they wake up eventually, and sometimes they apologize. They always apologize for falling asleep. And like you said, Jenny, it must be because you need to sleep. And there are often people who can't sleep at night, who are insomniacs or have a lot of pain. But like you say, I mean, their nervous system is still receiving a lesson on an unconscious level.
Do you then explore with them that is that the function that maybe they would like to improve, is how to be comfortable enough to go to sleep?
Yes.
Because that's a function, right? Sleeping is a function.
It is, yeah. How would you normally go to sleep?
Yeah.
And often they don't know.
They haven't learned how to.
They haven't learned how to make themselves comfortable in bed.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have your hand up?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see if we can do this. What?
Okay, all right. Martina wants to, she's just jumping. And then Silvana.
I like to argue that point that that brain doesn't learn when you're sleeping. I mean, because there has been research, and probably you're a neurophysio, probably would know that
there's a challenge. Maybe I do, maybe I don't.
On the sleep cycle. And there also has been research done, and I've tried it with myself, that your brain can learn in a certain stage of the sleep, like expand like a language. And I've tried it with myself in school because I can't learn a language just from a book. I actually spoke a certain amount of words into a tape, and then my mother turned it on when I went to sleep, and I could remember all the words the next day. And normally when I just was sitting in front of a book trying to learn what's in Latin that and in German that, I couldn't remember. And that was for me the only way of learning. So I'm sure the brain can perceive the movement, and maybe even better because you cut out other distractions. I think the only way you can do it, you would have to measure the brain waves.
So what we understand about sleep and learning is that sleep is vital for consolidating learning, and that's a difference, right? So consolidating learning is rehashing what we've gone through that day or the day before, and what we know from imaging the brain when people are asleep is that they are replaying events and they are consolidating memory, which underpins learning. And they're going over it and working it through and strengthening connections. So, yes, it's consolidating learning.
That's in REM sleep?
Yes, mostly.
Yeah. So,
well, that's partly dreaming, not necessarily, though. So the stage 4 apparently is really important too. So the stage 3, stage 4. So I read. It's not my area.
Yeah.
So I didn't say you can't learn while you're consolidating learning while you sleep.
Stage 1, when we fall asleep and just go into light sleep.
So that light sleep, maybe they're paying attention to things. So in that first stage of sleep, people will say, I wasn't asleep. That's the characteristic of the first stage of sleep, is I wasn't asleep and I was still paying attention. But actually things can happen in the room that they don't know. So the attention is very sporadic and I wouldn't necessarily rely on it. What Feldenkrais was saying, people go into a deep sleep and it didn't matter. That's what I was not, that's just not the case. It does matter. So if we let people sleep in it. So this is bringing it back to teaching ATM and people sleeping. Yes, of course, everyone will go to sleep after lunch up to a point, and we will do exactly what Fran was talking about. Is if it's just the odd bit, okay, we don't go and kick you, wake you up. If we notice that you always curl yourself up into a ball and go to sleep in every ATM, this is a habit. Right, and you're using the ATM as either a defence mechanism or you're avoiding the lesson, or, this is in the context of this room, and we'll have a little chat with you about it. And I haven't noticed anybody doing that. There was a group years ago in here, there's a couple of recalcitrants who just up the back corner, I can visualise them. And we had to have that conversation. Do you realise that every time we teach an ATM, you fall asleep? What's going on? Did you notice that that's a habit? Because we've noticed it. and it's not, your learning is going to be influenced. No. Yes. No, I know you wasn't. I know you weren't talking about yourself, because I know you wouldn't. Yeah, you don't. Your eyes are still going. Yeah. Yeah. No, I get that. Yeah, I was taking it into ATM. I think the others have answered the question around FI. It's fine. Silvana, you wanted to say something though.
Yeah, I think you've already answered it in the discussion about habit, but just to clarify, because I'm just curious in terms of sleep in FI more so, and I'm thinking of children here. So the reasons why they may fall asleep, and I'm conscious from my experience that sometimes the reason may be habitual, and that now makes sense the way you've described in terms of identifying it. But how do you go about identifying, if it's not habit and they do it all the time, how do you go identifying the difference between you having done too much, or their system not having done too much, their system, but their system having had enough and stopping, and it might be 20 minutes into the session and that's it, versus a decision to let them have that sleep and then resume.
I think Jenny's kind of answered that in a way too. So she keeps working, just gently and quietly.
Even though they're asleep.
Yeah, even though they're asleep. Because they're still getting interesting information.
So just plain devil's advocate, if it's a scenario where you've given them too much information, or they've received too much information and it's sent them in shutdown.
Oh, okay, so yes, okay.
Sent them in, into shutdown.
Yeah.
Then aren't you potentially hindering that by still gently working while they're asleep? I'm just curious of that.
I've never had anybody.
Shut down.
I can't think, people don't usually sleep in my lessons because they're pretty vigorous. So it's not something. And as soon as you move them, they wake up again. Look, and the sign of overload is a bit similar. When we asked about how do you know that someone's overloaded, the things that Marissa's saying, their breathing will change, their eyes start, Ray. Yep, the eyes start darting around. You start getting twitching. You start seeing this kind of other state of being kicking in because they're overloaded as well. Or they could go, deeply. They switch off.
Yes.
In a social setting, can you tell when somebody's not interested in you anymore?
Oh, completely.
Yeah.
I hope.
Yeah.
Like now I'm sensing that.
I reckon trust your instincts, because you'll trust your instincts, because you can tell. I'm just thinking okay, one more. Pat.
Who's to say you're not in a better learning state?
Who is to say? I wouldn't. Yeah. It depends on what you're talking about with learning. So is it the new learning or the consolidating learning? And that sleep might be really important for the consolidation. Yeah, I think you're right. So it's how it is. They'll do what they do, and you'll follow your kind of path up to a point, taking that their sleep is a feedback tool for you. Yeah. All righty. Well, that seemed to generate a bit of interest. Ray, yes. Big chuck, Pat, or relay. Oh.
Just on this...
forward throw. Off.
On this continuation of, what we hear, what we don't understand when we sleep. I used to test newborn babies for hearing, and we actually wanted them to be asleep to test, because basically too much activity meant our equipment couldn't actually test them.
Yeah.
And if the deeper the sleep and the more active their hearing was, meant we could get beautiful sensations of the hearing coming through. Now, in terms of comprehension, that's a slightly different thing.
That's right.
But there's also a very famous study done in Northern Ireland where they had lots of mothers coming up to giving birth, and they had the two groups and the placebo groups and things like that. And they discovered that because pretty much after birth, basically, there's not a lot of clues as to what the baby's aware of at that moment in time, but they proved that the baby knows who the mother is, as opposed to another female who enters the room, just with subtle awareness and movements and things like that. And they also play things like the Neighbours theme tune to Neighbours pretty shortly after birth. And those babies whose mothers have been watching Neighbours once a day, they instantly made those similar gestures to, that's a familiar sound to me. So they come out the womb, and if they've been trained with that sort of sound, that will be a familiar sound that they will register. So, yeah. So we do, there is sensation in there even if we are asleep or not conscious.
Yeah, and now we're getting into a very, very deep conversation around what is implicit and what's explicit learning, and what is implicit and explicit in terms of consciousness and unconsciousness. And that's a whole nother long conversation where we have an illusion that everything's conscious, and actually most of our decision making is subconscious. But that's going to fry your head, and you won't want to know about it because it's going to make you feel inadequate. So that's very good. So it's not as simple as what we're saying, and Martina's going into her type thing, and that's okay. We're going to have such a lovely time together. It's going to be marvellous. Because you probably need a bit of carb, I reckon. Carbs? Rock melon? Sorry? It's lunchtime. Yes. So hour and a quarter for lunch today. So it's 1 o'clock. So come back at 2:15.